regular meeting of the Los Angeles City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Committee. My name is Marquise Harris Dawson. I'm chair of the committee, joined by the vice chair, Councilman Mitchell Englander, and member Bob Blumenfeld from the Great San Fernando Valley. We will begin this meeting with a handful of folks who've signed up for multiple comment cards. In general public comment and an item, so you'll have 2 minutes to speak, one on one or multiple items on the agenda that you've signed up for, and in addition to that, a minute of general public comment that is limited in scope to the items under the purview of this committee. For the record, we've also been joined by Councilmember Curran Price of the 9th District as well. So we'll begin our meeting. If I can see the general public comment section on the queue, we'll be good to go. Okay, so we'll start with Carlos Cerdan and Stephanie Aspuro. Please forgive me for mispronouncing your names.
Hello, Chairman Harris Dawson and Plum Committee members. I am here today to speak in favor of an appeal you have before you to stop this mega KIPP from being built at the Lincoln Hospital site in Boyle Heights. My hope is that I can plead to your common sense and better judgment in order to help you realize that while this issue is very divisive and we can have our different opinions on both sides of this issue, the concern and outrage of this community really stems from the negative environmental and educational impact this school worsens in an already densely populated area. As a community representative, I am here to inform you that this privatized corporate charter school would only add more problems that it's trying to solve and will hurt the quality of life in and around this area. What we really need to bring to this community is more affordable housing. This community needs more housing options for the residents who are struggling to find where to live. In January of 2018, this corporate charter school issued issue was brought.
Sir,
yes.
Pardon me. So this is on an item where the public hearing has already happened. I'm talking from up here. Here you go. So public comment has already been done on the particular item you're talking to. So you can talk about planning issues in general, but not specific to this item.
So the planning issues in general would be that the construction of this site here would actually hurt the surrounding area because it would bring in 600 additional vehicles into a very congested area on the north and southbound of Soda Street, east and westbound on 4th Street. So the issue is that it's a health and safety concern, it's an environmental concern, and also we would request that they had an educational impact report before they actually opened up this school, because it would impact 5 public schools around the area, 3 charter schools that currently exist, and 3 private schools that already exist within the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much. I would like to give my time to...
You cannot, we cannot transfer time. You have to take the time that you're given.
Okay.
Got to start the clock.
Yes. The most important point that I'd like to contribute to is that I'm 54 years old. I grew up in this community, and the great impact that I'm concerned about is the safety and the availability of schools that we already have in the community. And so I'd like to plead with you that you strongly consider not giving this land for use that's not necessary. We already have enough spaces for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to stop public comment for the moment and then go to item number 12, if we can read that into the record.
Sure. Item 12, Councilman, this is a report from the Planning Commission. It's a vesting zone change, and it includes also an appeal by Carlos Montes as to the conditional use for the public charter school.
Excellent. So we satisfied public comment on this on November 6th. If there are additional, if there's additional content, which I believe there is from staff, we'll hear that at this moment.
Good morning, council members. This is Courtney Shum with City Planning. No, there have been no changes to this case since Plum on November 6th.
All right. I have in my notes that the applicant wanted to present additional traffic mitigation measures. If you could come forward and state your name and let us know what those are.
Good afternoon, Chairman, council members. I'm Alfred Frahel, counsel for the applicant. I want to clarify that they're not conditions, they're additional, rather they're not mitigations, they're additional conditions.
Okay.
Since our last hearing, we have worked with both staff and the council office to really think through how we wanted to ensure the safety and enhance the circulation based on the concerns that were raised by multiple stakeholders. I've circulated to both staff and this body copies of several conditions that we think really enhance the project that we've been working with LADOT, the council office, as well as the planning department. These limited additional conditions will really provide for additional signage that would allow for the traffic that will be particular to the site for drop-off and pickup to ensure that folks are exiting in the right location, which is behind the school away from the primary corridor. In addition to that, we're really happy to share with the commission that we are going to designate a full-time individual to help with traffic monitor as well on site, and we're introducing carpooling. The details of those conditions are set forth in the materials that I've shared with this body. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, I'll move that we deny the appeal and adopt the staff's recommendations on CEQA. The committee finds that the CEQA analysis is adequate and supported by substantial evidence. Notwithstanding that finding, the City Council is willing to accept additional mitigation measures presented by the applicant.
I would ask, I'm so sorry. I would just clarify that there are additional conditions.
I got you. Thank you. And incorporate those into the mitigation monitoring program and impose them as conditions of approval. If there's no objection, that'll be the order.
Council member, just to clarify, I'm sorry, Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. In light of the statements just made by the applicant, it would be no change to the mitigation monitoring program and an update of the conditions of approval, right?
That's not how it works, but thank you.
Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. There's been no change in the project itself. The conditions of approval are purportedly being made pursuant to the public comment that was made last time. It's at the discretion of the chair whether or not the public comment should be reopened.
Okay, so it's my understanding that we satisfied public comment last week when dozens of people spoke on the matter for over an hour. So we'll deny the appeal and adopt the staff's recommendations on CEQA. That'll be the order. All right. Let's go to item number 11.
Item 11, Councilman, this is an appeal that has been filed relative to the land use entitlements for the project, and I believe that the applicant has withdrawn their application.
All right, we'll receive and file this matter.
Yes.
I don't see any, I see one public comment on it. I look for some guidance as to whether we need to entertain that public comment.
Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. Since the application has been withdrawn, ceases to exist for
Got it.
purposes of this body.
Thank you. Item number 4.
Item number 4, Councilman, this is a Cultural Heritage Commission report relative to the inclusion of the Aberdeen House as a historic cultural monument in CD4.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Ken Bernstein with Department of City Planning and Office of Historic Resources. The Aberdeen House is a 2-story single-family residence in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, constructed in 1926. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is that the nomination meets one of the historic cultural monument criteria as it embodies the distinctive characteristics of Tudor Revival residential architecture in the Los Feliz community.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions from committee members on this matter at 151st of the Aberdeen House? Seeing none, we've got a malfunction. If there's, did anybody sign up for item number 4? Okay, that's why there are no names here. So there are no public speakers here for item number 4. We will approve this item on consent. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. Let's go to item number 5.
Item 5, Councilman, this is a Cultural Heritage Commission report relative to the inclusion of the Wallace Beery's Hollywood Hideaway as a historic cultural monument.
Yes, sir.
Again, Ken Bernstein, City Planning. Wallace Beery's Hollywood Hideaway is a 1936 one-story single-family residence that was commissioned by actor Wallace Beery. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is, again, that this meets one of the historic cultural monument criteria as an excellent example of streamlined modern residential architecture and as a significant work of master architect William Kesling.
Thank you. Questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, we have a few speaker cards. We have Richard Chave, Stephen Luftman, Amy Gallaudet, and Dale Kendall.
Hi, this is Stephen Luftman. I was one of the applicants, so I thought I'd speak first. I'll speak briefly. Good afternoon, council members. Located in Hollywood, this building was designed by master architect and builder William P. Kesling for Wallace Beery. It represents both Hollywood and the emerging design, modern design. Excuse me, I've lost my place. Los Angeles is emerging as a world leader in 20th century modern architectural design movement. Out of the 20 existing Keslings, this one is by far the most exuberant. It has hovering pergolas, tile fountain waterways, and cell-story windows. This HCM is supported by the Los Angeles Conservancy, Hollywood Heritage, the Art Deco Society of Los Angeles, and West Hollywood Preservation Alliance. I thank you for hopefully making this a historic cultural monument. Thank you.
My name is Amy Gallaudet. Because I own residential and real estate in different areas, I belong to 4 different associations. They all have severe reactions to the demolition of historic and cultural significant properties and the slab replacements, which are out of sync, out of balance with adjacent buildings. Being an artist and one involved with architecture, we learned that design, balance, perspective must also involve its surroundings. To place an untoward structure into a carefully architectural design community shows utter disrespect not only for the residents but for the whole city. It changes the character and makes a distraction. These developers have no regard for pride of workmanship or the community at large. That is why I am here to represent my associations and the streamlined building who wants to be saved, who is worthy of being saved, and we desperately want to save it. To trash an architecturally significant building is akin to trashing a Van Gogh or a Turner. Please support the Cultural Heritage nomination.
Thank you. That's your time.
Hello, Dale Kendall. I'm here in support of this HCM. I'm here representing Save Beverly Fairfax, a neighborhood group. We're in full support of this very special streamlined Modernica building. It's a great example. I drove by it again last night just to look at it, and anyone that drives by this structure, even if you don't know that much about architecture, you you can tell there's something special about it, and it's really worth saving. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Shave, and I am in support of this historic cultural monument application.
Thank you so much. If there's no further comment or questions, I'll recommend that we approve this item on consent. And then if we could consider items 7, 8, and 9 together. There have been requests to move those items, to continue those items to the December 11th meeting. So without objection, that'll be the order. And then on item number 13, there's been a request to continue that item to the January 15th.
2019.
Pardon me?
2019, January 15, 2019.
Sorry, January 15, 2019. Thank you so much. All right. And then, Mr. Bertoni, do we have Mr. Bertoni? Do we have a planning director's report?
Good afternoon, Kevin Keller, Executive Officer, City Planning. No planning director's report today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll receive and file that. Item number 2.
Item 2, Councilman, this is a report from the Planning Commission. It's a vesting zone change and a modification to a queue condition in the Community Design Overlay District for a mixed-use project located in CD 6.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Chair Harris Davison, members of the committee. For the record, I am Peg Malone Brown, Valley Project Planning. The item for your consideration today was acted on by the CPC on May 23rd. And the proposed project is demolition of 3 commercial buildings and a surface parking lot, construction, use, and maintenance of a 6-story mixed-use building with, approximately 157,000 square feet of floor area, ground floor commercial totaling about 18,000 square feet, 174 units, 10 of them set aside for very low-income households, and commercial and residential parking, obviously, constructed to a height of 75 feet. And staff is available for questions.
Excellent. So before we get to questions and comments by committee members, I want to go through our public comment cards. We have a couple. Vivian Escalante, and then someone named Jim Daj-Tona. I think someone misspelled your name, sir.
Well, now you see why I have to leave. Jim D'Antona for Councilwoman Nuri Martinez. I don't use those kiosks. Thank you for your time. We're here. I'm here on behalf of the Councilwoman to support the project. It'll be a great development. The only thing we are asking is we have submitted a amending queue condition that we've discussed with the Planning Department. To read it into the record, it would amend parking requirements with the following. All code required parking, both residential, resident and guest, and commercial, must remain free of charge. Any parking in excess of code may be used to provide paid public parking spaces for the community. A parking attendant valet shall only be required for all tandem commercial parking spaces as required by the LAMC. An attendant shall be optional at any other time and for any other purpose. Any conditions related to electrical vehicle parking shall only apply to code required parking, and electric vehicle parking conditions shall be optional for the applicant for all the parking in excess of the code required spaces. And this condition shall take priority over any other conflicting conditions associated with projects on this site. And I've turned that into the clerk's office on behalf of the councilwoman, and we understand that planning would get that fixed into the queue.
Thank you so much. I don't see Ms. Vivian. So, if there are no questions or comments from members, I'll move that we adopt this item as amended, as submitted to the clerk. And hearing no objection, that'll be the order.
And adoption of the environmental findings as well, Council.
And adoption of the environmental findings in addition. Excellent. Thank you all so much. Item number 3.
Item 3, Councilman, this is a report from the Planning Commission. It's two zone change ordinances. One relates to the Height District, and the other one relates to the boundaries of the West Adams Community Plan Implementation Overlay District.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council Member Susan Wong with the Department of City Planning. The Department of City Planning was directed to modify 7 lots located at the northeast corner of West Jefferson Boulevard and West Rodeo Road in the Jefferson-La Cienega TOD sub-area in the West Adams Community Plan. Before the Plum Committee today is an amendment to the West Adams CPIO and a zone change for the subject lots to modify the Height District from the MR1 1BL-CPIO to MR1-2D-CPIO. If approved, the subject lots in the Jefferson-La Cienega TOD sub-area of the West Adams CPIO will be redesignated as Parcel Group F from their current designation of Parcel Group A. The floor area ratio maximum for the subject lots will increase from 1.5 to 1 FAR to 2 to 1 FAR, and the maximum height will increase from 45 feet to 75 feet. The proposal will not change the current limited industrial general plan land use designation of light industrial. There is no development associated with this action.
Thank you. Anything? You're there. Might as well get it in.
Thank you, Committee Chair. That really sums it up. That is all we have to present.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So I have one public comment card from Dr. Tom Williams. No Dr. Williams? All right. So I'll move that we approve the zone change ordinance and also request the city attorney to prepare and present the West Adams Implementation Overlay District Ordinance for the Jefferson-La Cienega Transit-Oriented District Sub-Area. Seeing no objection, that'll be the order. We'll go to, thank you. We'll go to item number 6.
Item 6, Councilman, this is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Times Mayor Square as a historic cultural monument in CD 14.
Yes. You're on.
Yes, good afternoon again. Ken Bernstein, Department of City Planning and Office of Historic Resources. Was before you is a nomination for Times Mirror Square, historically the headquarters of the Los Angeles Times. Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation was that the nomination met 2 of the Cultural Heritage Ordinance criteria. First, for its direct association with the prominent Chandler family, particularly Harry Chandler, Norman Chandler, Dorothy Buffum Chandler, and Otis Chandler, and their significant role in the evolution of the Los Angeles Times to a newspaper of national acclaim. And then secondly, for its architecture as a excellent example of Art Deco, modern and late modern architectural styles, as well as a significant work of 3 master architects, Gordon Kaufman, Roland Crawford, and William Pereira. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, we got a lot of public comment cards here, so if you can hang out, perhaps we will ask you to address some of the questions that are raised after we exhaust it. We've got 28 speakers. You'll have 1 minute each. So we ask you to be lined up and ready to go so we can get through this smoothly. I'll name off 3: Thomas Nagano, Ann Nguyen, and Rick Nordine. And after those 3, we'll have Alan Harris, Richard Chavez, and William Delvac. Let's do it.
The site of the Los Angeles Times in 1855 was the very first schoolhouse in Los Angeles. In 1937, it was awarded a gold medal at the Paris exhibition for architectural significance, and now it is probably Los Angeles' newest Hollywood soundstage and movie and television location.
Thank you.
Reset the clock? Or do I get
1 minute?
Okay. My name is Rick Nordine. I'm a DTLA resident, an LA historian, and an author. I stand here today asking for support of the developer's plan to both preserve and develop the property as they had planned. What's that really mean? The eastern part of the property holds 2 wonderful structures that are the primary memorials to the Chandlers and to the LA Times. These should be preserved and restored. What's that mean? Very simply, you have to get rid of additions to a historic structure. So what I asked for is that they be allowed to be free to demolish the Pereira structure, to restore the 35 structure, and then to support the 1940 structure, and to have new development on the eastern part of the property, which supports a vibrant 24/7 mixed-use area, which is currently lacking in the Civic Center. I know Harry Chandler would appreciate the new development.
Thank you. Can you tell us your name?
Rick Nordine again.
Rick Nordine. Thank you, Mr. Nordine.
Good afternoon, Ann Nguyen, here today representing the Central City Association. We are here to oppose the proposed historic designation of the parking garage and the 1973 addition. We value the role that historic buildings play in the vitality of our city, and we're proud to have championed the adaptive reuse of many early 1900 downtown buildings, but we do not feel that the Pereira addition contributes in the same way as those early buildings and should not be deemed historic. It's an unwelcoming structure that closes itself off to the people on the street and detracts from the walkability of the Civic Center. And it masks the beauty of the neighboring original building on the east side, which we do support for designation. We're excited about the plans, and we urge you to support the historic designation of the original buildings, but not the Pereira addition and the parking garage. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Harris. I have the pleasure to live in a historic landmark building. The
Did I
Higgins building.
call your name, Mr. Harris?
I'm sorry?
Did I call your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. You said 3 in a row. And I
Okay.
was number 4.
And you were 3? Got it.
I'm sorry.
I'm
All right.
sorry for stopping you. Go on.
Fair enough. I live in a historic building approved by this council, the Higgins Building, which is a block from the subject property. Let's take a look at this neighborhood and its historic importance, and let's not ruin it. Down the street a block, National Register of Historic Places, the Bradbury Building, Grand Central Market. Across the street from where I live, St. Viviana, 1876, National Register of Historic Places. And now today we are in the preeminent building in Los Angeles on the National Register of Historic Places, and in every TCM movie I see, this is the symbol of the city. And a block away, we want to preserve another crown jewel of this historic area in its totality. The Times Mirror Square building deserves preservation and support. They didn't tear down the Coliseum in Italy and put up a parking lot. You shouldn't do that for Los Angeles.
Thank you so much.
Hello, committee. I'm Richard Shave. I'm the applicant for the Historic Cultural Monument. Before the committee today is Times Mirror Square, a landmark comprised of 3 interconnected buildings. They are the only privately owned buildings in the Civic Center, and for nearly a century were the symbol of the powerful Chandler family in the Los Angeles Times. The earliest structure, the 1935 Gordon Kaufman Times building, announced Los Angeles' arrival on the national stage. The third structure, erected in 1973, proclaimed that Los Angeles and the Times had achieved their shared destiny as a great American city, newspaper, and media company. Together, these buildings tell a living story of our city's identity, vision, and growth. Los Angeles needs and deserves to keep them intact to tell the story of how the young city saw itself, how time and human effort helped Los Angeles realize that ambitious vision. This evolution in design is one of the essential roles that historic architecture plays in any city. The oldest building, opened in 1935 under publisher Harry Chandler, captures the provincial city's promise as a rising empire. Gordon Kaufman was known for grand traditional statements. For the Times, however, he used the fashionable Art Deco style to reflect the modern West's raw, muscular, physical power. But built into the very fabric of the building was the memory of the deadly 1910 bombing of that old Times building across on First Street, with a security-conscious design that protected the presses and workers from future attacks. The newest building is the Times Mirror headquarters, designed in 1973 by architect William Pereira for Otis Chandler, Harry Chandler's grandson, and publishing heir. 4 decades on, Los Angeles has grown enormously in population, power, and prestige. It was now a metropolis, as Pereira's design shows through its sophistication, technological advances, and sheer self-confidence, reflecting the attitude of the city and of the enormous influence of Times Mirror, a media corporation like no other. But while Art Deco Kaufman Building is now a beloved landmark, the late modern Pereira Building is currently unfashionable and therefore vulnerable to unsympathetic alterations or even demolition. As Christopher Hawthorne, appointed by the mayor as the city's first chief design engineer, has pointed out, it is when important buildings are about 40 years old that they are most in danger of being lost. Pereira, architect of the theme building at LAX, CBS Television City, and the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, was the perfect choice to represent this new Los Angeles. With this late modern design, Pereira takes us beyond the minimalist boxes of the international style with a complex composition of stone verticals, steel, and glass horizontals, and a mix of materials and solids and voids, lifting large volumes effortlessly into the air. It is also a decidedly urban design. It sits back from the sidewalk, creating the gift of a small plaza, a quieter public space marked off by columns and planters by noted landscape architect Robert Herrick Carter, a frequent Pereira collaborator. It is especially innovative in how it respects the physical and symbolic presence of its historic neighbor. In 1973, historic preservation was not yet a concern for most architects, yet Pereira gracefully defers to the older buildings. Even though it is several times larger than the Kaufman buildings, Pereira's design intentionally does not overwhelm. It is lower. Darker materials cause it to recede visually next to the lighter tone of the older buildings. Pereira's design steps back from the older building, both at ground level and on its upper stories. Its entry defers to the main Kaufman entry. The building illustrates Pereira's skill as a master architect who helped to shape the Southland with a building that is symbolically, urbanistically, and creatively part of the life of the city. And the Pereira building is recently enjoying a fascinating modernization, without a single stone being moved. As the sun moves across the sky, Skidmore, Owing & Merrill's new federal courthouse sends moving bars of light across Pereira's dark facade. The city evolves, old and new working together. I encourage the committee to approve the Cultural Heritage Commission's designation to designate the Times Mirror Square. It is an important step on the path to creating public policy which seeks to preserve and restore and repurpose our city's past, making us the richer for it.
Thank you.
Honorable Council members, Bill Delvac on behalf of the owner of the complex, Ani. I have with me our historic resource.
So, Mr. Delvac, you're speaking on behalf of the owner, not Ms. Holly?
On behalf of the owner, Ani.
All right. Thank you.
Should I proceed now, or?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And I won't take all of the time. I appreciate the extra time allotted. Ani plans to rehabilitate the historic heart of the complex. The 1935 original building, the Times building, the Plant building, and the Mirror building. It proposes, which is not before you today, the demolition of the executive building designed by Pereira and a parking structure. The city's Office of Historic Resources concluded that the building, so-called Pereira building, was not in fact significant for its associations with Pereira, which is exactly what our expert concluded. We've provided a few brief photographs, both submitted in advance and then handed out. You can see the primary historic building on the first sheet. The second sheet shows the evolution of the complex, the historic heart being along Spring Street, and the much later addition of the executive building and the parking structure along Broadway. And as you'll see from this one aerial, the executive building is pushed into and on top of the Times building, obscuring it and in fact removing part of the original facade. View from the corner shows just how the building is not compatible with the rest of the complex. I'd like to note, very interestingly, there was a master plan proposed by Pereira which did not attach the building. It left a passageway or paseo and then proposed a tower behind. And again, while the project is not before you today, what would result if that project is approved, is a passageway, building separated, and towers to provide much-needed housing. We have a very simple request. In moving forward on the designation, we ask that you exclude from the designation the executive building and the parking structure. We'd be pleased to reserve time to answer questions, or if you'd like to hear from our expert.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, council members.
All right, I got Suzanne Holly, Linnea Corday, Doug Summers.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Hawley. I'm from the Downtown Center Business Improvement District, and I am here to oppose the historic designation of the Pereira addition to the Los Angeles Times building. The structure is not worthy of such a designation, as you've heard, and its preservation will prevent the development of much-needed housing downtown. While I fully support the efforts to preserve the historic Los Angeles Times building, the Plant building, and the Mirror building, which are all over 70 years old, the 1973 Pereira addition and parking garage are much newer with architectural features that are not only inconsistent with, but actually detract from the original cultural landmarks. We strongly urge the committee to exclude from the historical designation the Pereira addition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Summers. I'm with UA Local 709 Sprinkler Fitters, Los Angeles. I represent 1,000 hard-working journeymen and women in the fire protection business. We oppose the historic cultural designation of the 1970s Pereira building. The building was added decades after the other historic structures were built and has no significant architectural or functional features. Instead, the proposed development will benefit many people, including local workers. Ani has a great track record of hiring local workers and a strong commitment with the skilled trades. We should support rather than impede such efforts. Please listen to your local workforce and do not grant a historic cultural status to the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Diaz, Shamari Davis, Jordan Cecatelli. Yes.
Hi, I'm Linda Cordero.
Yes. No, you're in the queue.
I just wanted to say I'm a first time here, so I'm a little nervous.
Could you pull the mic a little closer?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. First time. So I'm a downtown resident, Pan American Lofts. I moved downtown because of the historic core and what is downtown LA. I didn't even know it existed until I worked at the LA Times. I'm here to support the inclusion of the Times Mirror Square in the list of historic cultural monuments. I think it's really important. I think we need to weigh this sometimes against. It's not just about jobs. It's not just about money. It is about preserving what makes this distinct and wonderful, and what's great about downtown Los Angeles as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business rep for IBEW Local 11, the National Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, here in Los Angeles County, representing about 12,000 workers. And we are here to oppose designating the 1970s Pereira building as a historical cultural monument. Not because we don't respect history, but because they are really keeping the project germane to the main part of the LA Times. They're only talking about tearing out the Pereira building. That's where the new tower is going to go, and we think that definitely fits in with the LA City plan. Ani has a really incredible project, incredible history with the trades. They've done good jobs and supplying good jobs to Angelinos, and we want to make sure we hail and we support very good developers that are good to the community, that create career pathways for folks in the LA City area. We always had a community benefit agreement and local hiring with all of their projects, and we want to continue that. So please support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Cecatelli, and I'm here on behalf of the Sheet Metal Workers Local 105 to request that the 1970s Pereira building not be included in the historic cultural designation for the complex. As someone who works in Los Angeles, I want to see our vibrant areas develop, because development means jobs for our members. When a high-quality builder like Ani builds new apartments and retail space, that also creates quality construction jobs. I urge the committee to reflect the values of LA workers and residents and not impede the future development of the site. Thank you very much.
Zach Strasters, Jose Pina, and Godfrey Wachira.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Diaz, and I'm here with Plumbers Local 78 from Los Angeles. I'm here to oppose the historical cultural designation of the 1970s Pereira building. This location has the potential to provide thousands of good-paying construction jobs and much-needed housing in the area. These jobs will provide hardworking men and women with good-paying careers that will help them provide for their families, pay for their health care, and contribute to our local economy and making it stronger than ever. For the potential jobs and 1,100 housing units, please do not grant historic cultural status to the building. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. To my friends on Council, good to see you again, and happy Thanksgiving since I missed you. I want to point out here that it was...
Tell us your name.
I'm Zach with the ARMS organization. My apologies, Councilman. I want to point out that Alan Hess with the Architectural Historical Organization argued that Pereira did not intend for the 70s era addition to the Times Complex to be a standalone monument, and by their own words instead wanted to respond to the older buildings and urban context in an appropriate way. California Housing Partnership estimates that LA County needs an additional 568,000 affordable housing units in order to meet the demand of its lowest income renters. While the findings of LAHSA's 2018 homeless count indicate that we're moving in the right direction, we must remember that the steps we've taken thus far are small compared to the work ahead. Despite containing only 3% of the total U.S. population, LA County still holds nearly 10% of the country's homeless population. People around the world are looking to Los Angeles for compassionate leadership and innovation in solving this human rights crisis. Thank you and have a good evening.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jose Pina with Creed LA, and I'm here opposing the historic cultural designation of the 1970s Pereira building. Protecting history through historic cultural designations is important for our city, but these designations should not be used as an instrument to prevent good development. Good development means good paying jobs and benefits for our local economy and revenues. And in this case, Ani has a proven track record of providing these benefits to workers and to the city. We hope that this committee will prevent the use of historic cultural designations to block much needed development and housing to our city. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Godfrey Wachira with Creed LA, and like others, I request that you do not include the Pereira building as a HCM. I think there is sufficient evidence that the building does not fit the designation. HCM, I believe, should mean something. And if we designate buildings all willy-nilly, I think it loses its value, and especially where it's blocking future development. We can and should blend the past with the future, but not through a building whose historical significance is doubtful. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Polito, Jay Bradford, Onita Correiro, Marcelo Vavala.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Polito. I'm with the ARMS organization, and I'm here opposing this historical cultural designation of the 1970s Pereira building. Los Angeles is in a housing crisis. The cost for housing is out of control, and there are not enough homes and apartments for our residents. This location has the potential to hold over 1,100 housing units, yet these homes are in danger of not being built. We need to design our communities based on our immediate needs, not needs of the past. And our immediate need today is housing. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay, and I'm here from Creed LA to oppose the historical cultural designation for the 1970s Pereira building. In determining historical cultural status for the complex, we can look at all the buildings separately rather than as a block. The two earlier buildings certainly fit as historical landmarks. However, the Pereira building has no significant architectural or functional features. In this case, building a new housing project makes more sense. According to the Mayor Garcetti, we need 100,000 additional units to support LA's population. Let's not limit our efforts to meet half the goal through the historical cultural designation on the site that has such amazing potential to add 1,100 new housing units. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Marcello Vavala with the Los Angeles Conservancy. The Conservancy supports the nomination, and we urge Plum to recommend designation. Times Mirror Square is significant both architecturally and for the many generations of history with the Chandler family and as the Times complex tracked the evolution of the growth of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Luftman, Charlie Canal, Glendana Shevkin.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. The Art Deco and
Tell us your
modern
name.
I'm sorry, Stephen Luftman.
Thank you.
The Art Deco and modern architecture is easy to like. To some people, the architecture of William Pereira is an acquired taste. That doesn't make it less historic and significant. For those who do not appreciate the architecture of the newer buildings, I'm sure even they would appreciate the culture as in the historic cultural monument that it represents. It represents a paper that endorsed an African-American mayor for the first time. It represents a paper that hired people, reporters of color, to report on neighborhoods that they never covered before while they occupied the other older, beautiful Art Deco buildings. I urge you to endorse this HCM as is. This is a very historic group of buildings. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Carno, and I'm here on behalf of over 30,000 members of Unite Here, the Hospitality Workers Union, to support staff's recommendation the entire LA Times Mirror complex be preserved, including the Pereira Edition. Many of our members work in locations designed by William Pereira, including USC's campus, the Beverly Wilshire, and formerly the Encounter Restaurant in LAX, which is historically designated by the city of LA. The loss of the Pereira Edition would mean the destruction of a vivid symbol of our city's rise to global metropolis. The edition under Otis Chandler is also a symbol of transformation in the LA Times to a paper that told the story of all Angelenos and rising social movements locally and around the world. Most recently, Times reporters made history themselves when staff at the LA Times voted overwhelmingly to unionize. No single event so symbolizes the transformation of Los Angeles from anti-union bastion to progressive beacon. It would be a tragedy if Los Angeles traded history in exchange for nothing more than yet another glassy slab of luxury housing few Angelenos will be able to afford.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Glendana Shevelin. I'm here to support the historical of the whole complex, including the William Pereira building. I'm a worker at Disney for the last 30 years, and there used to be a William Pereira building on the site. What I have seen in my 30 years of working at Disney and buildings being torn down and buildings coming back up, historical buildings. I know, you wave your hands like that, but it still doesn't make it not happening. And now those buildings that were built 15 years ago are going to be torn down again. So please take the staff recommendation and support the whole building as a historical.
Thank you. Jose Galindo, Harry Chandler, Fatima Murrieta.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the LA City Council. My name is Jose Galindo, and I'm here for Unite Here, Local 11, and I also work at USC, and I worked at the LA Times building. I think it would be a travesty and something we need to really think about as far as sort of dispatching any notions of having the Pereira building thrown away. We as Angelenos are too quick to look at progress and housing and the needs of our people, which are significant, but we also need to look at the treasures that we have here at LA, and the fact that this is a fellow Trojan that came out of USC, Mr. Pereira, left a treasure and an heirloom that we need to seriously think about before we're too quick to dispatch and build some gaudy new housing. We need to leave treasures for our children, and also the fact that we have very few treasures and landmarks here at LA that we cherish. And being that I've been here 50 years with my family, we appreciate your time, and please don't get rid of the landmark. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Harry Chandler. My father, Otis Chandler, built the Pereira building. My grandmother, Dorothy, planned the music center in the Pereira building. My great-grandfather, Harry, built the Kaufman. My grandfather, Norman, built the Crawford. As we think about what historical cultural monument status is, it's not just the architecture, it's also the history. So in those three buildings, I would argue there are not another three buildings in the entire city next to the council chambers here that more history happened. So when you think about this, think not just about whether you like Pereira today, think about the history that happened in those buildings, the presidents, the stories, the coverage. That's where we need to be thinking about today. We also think about jobs. So I would argue that you keep the three buildings and you ask only to recreate a design that builds over the Pereira building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fatima Murrieta. I'm a member of Unite Here, and I'm here in support of this cultural historical monument nomination as a proud union member. The LA Times building is important not just because of the political importance of its owners, but because it told the struggles of Angelinos and helped make this city more just. Latino journalists in the 1970s and 80s in particular pushed the paper to reflect our community and succeeded. For example, Ruben Salazar, reporter, he pushed the LA Times to view the Latino community, and he was the first to report the Chicano movement. Salazar's 1970s series, Who is Chicano?, discussed the evolving identity of Mexican Americans and their fight for political representation and justice. It inspired me as a young Latina learning about this in my social studies class, and when I pass by the building, it inspires me today. Please preserve our history and our entire LA Times complex.
Thank you. Susan Hunter. Please don't disrupt the meeting. Susan Hunter, Azine Kamalek, please don't disrupt the meeting again.
Susan Hunter, Coalition to Preserve Los Angeles. I just want to point out that Ani is in fact building another project at 1100, I believe it's South Street, where it's over 1,000 units and none of it is set aside for affordable. In downtown, we have between a 12 and 20% vacancy rate. So we actually don't need any more housing. And what we need to worry about is our communities and our environment. And by destroying that building, you would actually be releasing carbons that are embedded in it. The best thing to do for this community is not to saturate us with more housing units that we don't need. The best thing to do for this community is to preserve that building in our history so that when people do move in this area, they have a building that they can look at and say, I finally feel like I am knitted into this community. You can adaptively reuse it. It can be salvaged, it can be saved. Every single piece of it should become something that future Angelinos can then have in their future daily life when they're grabbing a cup of coffee and walking by. So please do the right thing. And on Historic Day, please do the right thing and make sure that we preserve this building. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I'm Azim Khan Malik, Planning Deputy with Council District 14. We respectfully ask the committee to approve in part the CHC's recommendations in awarding HCM status to the LA Times building, Plant building, and Mirror building, and overturning the CHC's recommendation in part by removing the William Pereira addition from the HCM nomination. We agree with the CHC's analysis that the Pereira addition is not architecturally significant and is not indicative of the work of a master builder, but is only significant in its association with the LA Times. Our office feels that by preserving the LA Times building, Plant building, and Mirror building, we will adequately preserve the legacy of the LA Times and its place in our city's cultural history, while allowing a potential project to move forward. And we do look forward to working with Ani on this project and all its details in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Herman and Wayne.
the hell you people be doing in my city? That's my LA Time building, Bo. You know better than that, Mr. Dawson. If it wasn't for the racist comments by the LA Times, we wouldn't have the LA building. And I'm here to preserve. Fuck the jobs, they're just promises. Fuck all your jobs, Mr. Dawson, they're just promises. Goddamn Angelinos and African Americans haven't had a goddamn job from any of your motherfucking projects, nigga. So what's up? You tell me what's up. You send that fool from Mr. Weezer's office, Habib Jr. over here to talk about the bullshit? No. The building stays as it is, build within, make people work inside, outside, but don't build any higher to protect my federal building from a blind side. You get me? You got me? Because the color of my skin don't say stupid, fool.
Wayne?
So why are we allowing people from the communist Jose Weezer be speaking here today in this house of democracy? No. We must preserve the black portion of the building. They want to tear it down because it's black like the chair. It's black like the heart of so many fools. You got to save the Pereira extension. I went up to the 10th floor, nigga. I went there for 6 hours to preserve it. I won. Now you trying to defeat me? It won't work. I will chain my goddamn ass to that motherfucking glass building if necessary. You took away my bank branch. My goddamn B of A is gone, but the memories will live on. So, fuck Jose Weezer and preserve the goddamn LA Times.
All right, that concludes public comment for this item. We'll begin our discussion. Mr. Bernstein, if you could join us back at the table.
Before he does, if I could ask the chair, for those of you who have not been to one of these meetings before, welcome. And it's yes, colorful language often from two individuals with some serious issues, but they come to every single meeting, every single council meeting, every committee meeting. And now he's disrupting this meeting.
The meeting, Mr. Spindler.
And if he does it again, I'm sure he'll be asked to leave. He's continuing to disrupt the meeting, so he should leave. But
Sergeants, can you please escort Mr. Spindler out of the meeting?
Thank you. Oh, trust me, you're number 57 for that. So, all right, so there's another one right there. So
Mr. Herman,
as well.
If you could
disrupting
leave,
the meeting.
Mr.
Yeah,
Herman, leave
Yeah,
the room with
Yeah,
Mr. Spindler.
Yeah, you did. And by the way, they often disrupt these meetings almost every single day in every committee meeting, and they're escorted out, and they take the time away from the public to discuss the serious issues.
They're moving as
before
slowly
these
as
bodies.
possible, disobeying
often.
a lawful order. We ask you to leave quietly.
Have a nice day. And your little dog, too. And they'll yell all their way out, by the way. So welcome to your Los Angeles City Council Planning and Land Use Committee meeting this afternoon. Thank you all for your patience. Give it a couple minutes. The pain will wear off. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know that. I think it's scarred for life. But
Needs
anyway,
time
yes.
to heal.
Yes.
Looks like we've got a good amount of discussion here. For the record, we were joined some time ago by Councilmember Gil Cedillo from the 1st District to bring a full complement of committee members. Mr. Cedillo, if you have questions or comments on this matter, I'll start with you. You do not? All right. Anybody with questions or comments on this one? All right, Mr. Blumenfeld, then Mr. England. Sir, Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, you
On
know,
now.
I sit here both as a member of this committee, but also as chair of housing. And so there's vexing questions for us. So how do we preserve the buildings that should be preserved, and then how do we build adaptive reuse, build the buildings that must be built? I'm trying to reconcile that with recent debates and discussions around Airbnb. And so it seems quite evident that people have finally come to the conclusion that we need housing. And so then the question is where and how. And it seems that in this instance we have found the perfect division. We preserved the historic part, or the first parts of the building, and then recognize that there's other representations of Pereira architecture throughout the city that are more significant and that meet the criteria more appropriately, while at the same time recognizing just the profound need for housing. And every day we grapple with this. We saw recently the efforts around Airbnb and the limits on those efforts to preserve housing and to build neighborhoods and community. It seems that it would be consistent, if it's not too much to ask for consistency, to continue to advocate for housing in this instance, and so that the perfect solution or resolution of all these competing interests is to bifurcate the site in part, preserve the older historic areas, and then take advantage of new opportunities so that development is ongoing and living, and build the much needed housing and do so in the way that has been presented and discussed by the anticipated architecture. So I would be happy to vote for that type of motion and proposal, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cedillo, our Chair of Housing. Appreciate you weighing in with regard to our housing need in the city of Los Angeles and the tough issues that we face here today. Mr. Blumenfeld.
Thank you. No, and I certainly agree with Mr. Cedillo in terms of the tension that we have. And while consistency is good, it's also the hobgoblin of small minds, as Emerson has said. But that being said, question about preserving the history without the building. You know, what are the other tools that we would have if the third building were to be not historic, and if we were to make that move in that direction, what are the options that we would have to preserve that history, to recognize that history, in addition to the preservation of the two buildings that remain?
Thank you, Council Member. Again, Ken Bernstein, Department of City Planning. Of course, what's before you today is a narrower question of whether the nomination does or doesn't meet historic cultural monument criteria. Separately from that, there is a project proposed for this site that's been going through our department's review process. There's an environmental impact report associated with that. And there would be opportunities as that project gets considered to look at other mitigation measures that could memorialize or interpret the history of the site and the Los Angeles Times as part of the approval of a project or a mitigation measure related to that. And certainly we can look at creative opportunities to interpret that history, either the architecture, William Pereira, and or the history of the Los Angeles Times and the Chandler family at the site if the building itself is not preserved.
I guess that's what I was getting at, which is that if that third building is not preserved, that does not mean the history goes away. We still have opportunity through a different process than today to recognize that history, to interpret that history, to build that into the requirements for whatever is built, some sort of preservation or homage to that history. Right. That was all.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Blumenfeld. I believe we have additional comments from the Venerable Mr. Gil Cedillo.
Thank you, sir. First, let me applaud your leadership, and I look forward to working with you on this committee. But let me note that, as you just indicated, Mr. Bernstein, that recently we were involved in an effort in Roosevelt to preserve the high school, and it has a very tremendous history, very rich history. However, we were unable to do that, but we were able to seek a balance and a resolution, and in that effort we were able to establish and will establish a center. And so that center on site will collect the artifacts of the original building, serve as a place for us to preserve the history of Roosevelt. There are some facades and aspects to that building that are significant and that will serve as the basically landmark or the marker. And then on site we will have the center, which is envisioned as a center for the preservation of the history of Boyle Heights and of Los Angeles. And so that's another way of, in many instances, of preserving the history of a site without actually preserving the actual building. I think that option makes itself available to this site. And then finally, I don't think it should be minimized, but that there are jobs that will be involved in creating the new housing, and those are union jobs. And so I have a record with the labor movement. I am pro-union and pro-worker and pro-development, and I think that we have found the perfect mix in this instance with those factors considered. Thank you.
Mr. Englander.
Thank you very much. Well, first, I truly appreciate all the work of the staff and the commission on this very delicate issue. And it's critically important that we protect and preserve the history of Los Angeles in so many different aspects. And while what's before us isn't at what cost, the project itself and what may come in the future isn't technically before us yet either. Mr. Cedillo made great arguments to that, and I agree with all of them. But looking at what is really before us, this entire facility has tremendous significance, not only in the way that it's been designed, but operationally and historic events. But that's not really what's before us either. In fact, we've had, and this is one of the most difficult that come before us in terms of issues on land use, is what do we ultimately decide to protect for our great-great-great-great-grandchildren for centuries to come, that we can look down and know years later, decades later, that we made the right decision on this body. And these decisions should not be taken lightly based on whoever an applicant or developer is or what they're proposing in the future. We have to look at the totality of each one of these locations and the significance and say, how do we make sure that we protect the right structures and facilities while not protecting and blessing every single application that comes here and looking at striking that balance? Because we can't do that either. In fact, I think it was just last year where we turned down a historic property. I think it was a Marilyn Monroe home where she was born. And we said, no, it's not enough to have a relationship. We want some other historic elements in terms of the actual architecture, not just what occurred perhaps under the roof. We needed a little more. Although the commission looks at it with a broader view, that's what they do. I think this body historically has said we need a little more than that, than the feel-good historians, which is critically important for preserving and protecting what we're losing every single day. In looking at this one, it's very delicate. But I looked at, again, the totality and where we look at all of these issues. And William Pereira, he was a different architect than the original building. His addition, as well as the garage, the staff for the commission actually ruled that there was no architectural historical significance. That was their finding on this. And that's something that I personally take into consideration very, very carefully. They did say there was a relationship with the Chandlers. They did go on to say that there was historical significance to what occurred certainly under the roof. But as it relates to specifically what's before us and what we've looked at and have done historically, and striking that balance and preserving what we should in those elements of this facility, I would support the recommendation to approve in part and deny in part the commission's recommendation and preserve what is truly the architectural significance. And I also I like, and although we can only do that as a suggestion, I like where Mr. Cedillo was going with it, that the building and whatever is brought there has something to capture what was done and what happened historically under that roof and who was there. I think that's very important. And so that's where my recommendation would be.
Excellent. Well said, Mr. Englander. Mr. Price, anything on this?
No, sir.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll second Mr. Englander's motion that we approve in part and deny in part.
And to clarify, council member, it's the Pareda building and the parking structure.
That's right.
Okay. And then just for clarification, if the planning department can clarify which address the Pareda building is, because there's 4 addresses that are listed on the committee agenda for purposes of the committee report.
All right. Is there someone from planning that can help us with this?
You know, I don't want to read inaccurate information in the record, so we will provide that to you as we provide the findings.
Provide it to the clerk.
Yeah, we'll provide it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Hearing no objection, that'll be the order. Thank you so much, everybody who came to speak on this item, and Mr. Bernstein. That takes us to item number 10, I believe we got left.
Yes, Councilman. Item 10, Councilman, this is a Planning Commission report. It includes 4 appeals. You have before you a vesting zone change, and the 4 appeals relate to the 3 land use entitlements, the conditional use, the zoning administrator's adjustment, and the site plan review for a proposed restaurant and a 114-room hotel in CD 13.
All right. We have a report from planning staff.
Good afternoon. My name is May Cernowska. I'm project planner for the item that's before you today. I'll give a brief summary of the project as well as summarize the appeal points and the department's response to those appeal points. The item that's before you today is for a proposed hotel known as the Selma Wilcox Hotel, as well as restaurants located generally at 6421 West Selma Avenue in the Hollywood Community Plan area. At its meeting on July 12, 2018, the City Planning Commission approved and recommended the adoption of the vesting zone change and height district change to TQC2-2D, and then approved the conditional use for the sale of alcoholic beverages for the proposed hotel, as well as a second ground floor restaurant, a zoning administrator's adjustment for reduced yards, as well as site plan review. This would maintain the existing 20,624 square foot restaurant that's there, as well as the subterranean parking structure. The approval was of the CUP, the zoning administrator's adjustment, and site plan review was subsequently appealed by 4 appellants, which is before the committee today in conjunction with the consideration of the vesting zone change and height district change. The issues raised in the appeals can be summarized in the following 5 issues. CEQA piecemealing of the project and other hotels in the area, inadequate CEQA analysis and mitigation measures, challenges the validity of the change in the delimitations and calculation of guest room density, noise concerns regarding use of the rooftop, and oversaturation of alcohol and safety concerns. Planning staff has submitted a letter to the FIA which provides a response to the individual appeal points that were raised by the 4 appellants, and also addresses these main appeal points, which I'll also summarize our response to. In regards to the CEQA piecemealing, the allegations regarding the CEQA piecemealing are in relation to a previous project that was before the city planning, before the zoning administrator, which is for a conditional use for the restaurant that is there today. That restaurant was constructed through ministerial permits that were obtained through the Building and Safety Department. The M&D that was prepared for that CUB analyzed the proposed restaurant, the subterranean parking structure, as well as the ground floor retail spaces. That M&D was found by the zoning administrator to have adequately analyzed the project based on all the information that was provided in the record at that time. It should be noted that the approval of the CUB was not appealed, and that includes the adoption of the M&D at that time, and so that approval became effective on April 4th, 2016. The applicant then submitted this particular application that is before you today for the proposed hotel and conversion of the retail space to ground floor restaurant. In order to address the concerns regarding piecemealing that was brought up, the Department of City Planning did a CEQA analysis that addresses the piecemealing question by analyzing the project to two different baselines. The first baseline, cited as the original baseline, takes into consideration the environment as it existed prior to the issuance of ministerial permits back in 2015. And then a second baseline referred to as the current baseline that analyzes the project based on the environment as it exists today. And so the M&D found that based on both baselines, all potential impacts could be mitigated, and that those mitigation measures have been incorporated into the condition of approval that was approved by the City Planning Commission. In regards to analyzing the proposed projects and the other hotels in the area that are being proposed today under one CEQA document, each of the hotels are independent projects. They do not rely on one another in order to be constructed or to operate, and so we did not feel that they're related in that sense. And so the M&D analyzes each of those hotels' projects as related projects as required by CEQA, and analyzes the potential impacts as such. In regards to the CEQA analysis and mitigation measures, the planning staff has reviewed the supplemental report submitted as part of the appeals that raises concerns regarding an analysis in the M&D, and has found that it does not contain sufficient evidence to support the claims that the CEQA analysis is inadequate or incorrect. The M&D identifies mitigation measures that contain performance standards that the applicant would have to be required to comply with in order to mitigate the potential impacts, which are consistent with the requirements of CEQA. In regards to the change in the delimitation, in general, delimitations are development limitations that are adopted through the legislative process prescribed in Section 1232 of the Municipal Code. As such, the city may maintain, modify, or change these limitations as determined to be appropriate through the legislative process, which is what is before you today. In regards to the hotel guest room density, the provisions of LAMC Section 1222A18 permits R5 zone uses for qualified mixed-use projects on commercially zoned properties within designated regional centers, which the site is located in. And so the site and project complies with the provisions and correctly applies the regulations of the R5 zone, including the unlimited density of guest rooms to the project. In regards to noise, the appellant raises concerns regarding the applicant's operations of the adjoining hotel known as the Dream Hotel, and noise from live entertainment that is proposed on the rooftop of the Selma Wilcox Hotel. It should be noted that the Dream Hotel is a separate hotel that was previously approved back in 2007 and operates under a separate set of conditions of approval, and was not before the City Planning Commission and is not before Plum or City Council. In regards to the live entertainment, the M&D does acknowledge the live entertainment and also analyzes the potential noise impacts of that live entertainment within the outdoor area. And it found that the proposed 6-foot glass or heavy plastic safety wall around the perimeter of the rooftop would mitigate those noise impacts. And in consideration of concerns raised by the public, the City Planning Commission conditioned the project to limit the operating hours of the outdoor space on the rooftop, as well as limiting the area of live entertainment to within an enclosed portion of the rooftop. And then lastly, in regards to oversaturation of alcohol establishments and safety, the applicant is required to obtain a license from the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control from the state, in addition to the conditional use permit. As stated in the findings for the CUB, ABC has the authority to approve an application if there is evidence that normal operations will not be contrary to the public welfare and will not interfere with the quiet enjoyment of the property of residents in the area. The CPC took into consideration all of the comments that were brought up by the public and approved the CUB with a number of conditions that were recommended by LAPD to address safety, as well as the noise concerns that were raised from the public. LAPD reviewed the project and also submitted a set of recommended conditions, which they stated, if it was complied with, would mitigate any potential safety impacts of the project. Planning staff would also like to recommend one modification that was recommended by LAPD. Unfortunately, due to timing of receipt of that condition, we were not able to recommend it to the City Planning Commission. So I'd like to read into the record that recommended condition, which would modify condition number 21B. The condition would state that the number of special events permitted on the subject property shall be limited to a maximum of 24 events per year. A special event is any event which is held weekly, monthly, or annually, or that includes outside advertisement demonstrating a change in the mode and character of the normal hotel operations, including but not limited to hours of operation or any significant live entertainment features that would stipulate an ABC 1-day permit application or some other special endorsement. Operational occurrences or arrangements wherein the applicant demands or requests an admission fee from the hotel patrons will be considered special events, as will any events that involve exclusion of the general public from gaining admission to the hotel premises or public portion thereof. The applicant shall approve from the Hollywood Vice Unit for all special events 14 days in advance of the date of the special event in writing, and LAPD shall respond to the request for special events in writing. Outside advertisement as it pertains to the provisions shall include any promotional material or notification commissioned by any entity that is not directly associated with the operations or under the direct employment of the applicants, and the applicant shall at all times remain in operational control of the subject premises and shall not relinquish authority of the premises to outside promoters, organization, or entertainers. And with that, I would like to recommend that the committee deny the appeal and sustain the decision of the CPC with the modification to condition 21B as read into the record, and also recommend the adoption of the vesting zone change and height district change. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have City Attorney 4 appellants on this matter.
Correct.
How do we proceed with their comments?
So generally, this committee gives each appellant 5 minutes for their arguments, and then the applicant has equal amount of time to present their.
So 20 minutes for appeals and 20 minutes for the applicant? I mean, the applicant?
The applicant can get, at the chair's discretion, between 5 and 20 minutes, depending on the amount of time.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 4 applicants that we'll ask to come forward. We've got Casey Hadron for our first appellant. You have up to 5 minutes. You are not required to use all
Thank you.
5 minutes.
My name is Casey Madron. I represent United Neighborhoods for Los Angeles. I've read over the staff responses to the appeals, and I have to say I find them seriously lacking. In response to staff response number 1, the fact that live entertainment was not included in the public notice for the project, staff says that it does not require discretionary approval, the fact that there's going to be public entertainment, and so therefore it does not require to be noticed. This is not correct. The public is entitled to a complete description of the project so that it consider all the impacts the project will have. By eliminating notice of live entertainment being considered, the DCP failed to inform the public of one of the crucial components of the project. The staff notes that design out crime features are included in this project, and therefore that will take care of any concerns about crime. Unfortunately, staff does not include the information that design out crime features have been included in many, many projects approved in Hollywood over the past 10 years. Crime in Hollywood has gone up almost every year for the past 10 years, and in fact, this year it's 3.8% higher than it was in 2017, and it's over 10% higher than it was in 2016. The design out crime features obviously are not doing their job, and therefore this is a completely inadequate argument on the part of city planning. In response to staff response for item number 2, the LAPD is in support of this project. That may be true, but the LAPD is not a planning agency. It is the Department of City Planning's responsibility to monitor alcohol density and to reflect concerns about rising crime through appropriate planning. There are years of research that show that high alcohol density contributes to violent crime. The fact that the Department of City Planning refuses to acknowledge this and continues to approve alcohol permits not just for individual businesses, but is actually now approving master CUBs, which include permits up to 10 and 20 at a time. 10 at the recently approved El Centro project on Hollywood Boulevard, and over 20 for the Crossroads project. The Department of City Planning is allowing applicants to just drown Hollywood in alcohol, in spite of the fact that we already see a high level of drug abuse and a high level of crime, which again research shows is associated with high alcohol density. The last item I'll address, as far as piecemealing, The staff response says the appellant has not provided information on substantial evidence of piecemealing. This is absolutely hysterical. In the first place, if you look at Exhibit B provided with the appeal we submitted, when the project was first applied for, when the hotel retail project was first applied for a couple of years ago, the name of the applicant was 6421 Selma Hotel LLC. Area residents told DCP, we don't believe the applicant is sincere. We don't believe they're just going to build a restaurant and retail. We think they have something else in mind. They're calling themselves 6421 Selma Hotel LLC. City planning ignored our concerns. What do you know? A little while later, they come back and they want to build an 8-story hotel. Exhibit D in the appeal is a brochure posted in 2014 before the appeal was submitted, before the application was submitted for the restaurant retail project, showing the entire complex with 2 hotels, referring to Dream 1 and Dream 2 and the Tower Restaurant, and also specifically saying Dream 2 is a $43 million extension of Dream 1. It is clear that as far back as 2014, based on documents that the developer posted on the net to raise funds, that they intended to build the entire complex at that time, and that the application for the restaurant retail project was bogus. As Renee Dake Wilson, a commissioner on the City Planning Commission, said, it's clear that this is just a bogus project submitted to get things going. I am not surprised that City Planning has chosen to ignore this evidence. I actually look forward to the Plum Committee denying the appeal, because I'm dying to know what the courts will have to say about not just the project itself, but about the City Planning Commission, Department of City Planning's process in approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you. We have L. Farmer, our second applicant.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Elle Farmer. I am one of the appellants on this project. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and on behalf of the 30,000 members of Unite Here Local 11, the Hospitality and Food Service Workers Union for LA and Orange County and Arizona. I am here to express our continued opposition to this project, the Dream 2 Hotel. It is important to remember that this is the second phase of the next-door Dream Hotel project, and it is part of the Tommy Hotel project that's a few hundred feet away, and the Thompson Hotel project that's a few hundred feet away, and this Hollywood Citizen News project, which is a little bit more nebulous, also a few hundred feet away. In no uncertain terms, I also object to the extreme delay by city staff in getting to us, the appellants, these documents that they produced. The staff report was delivered last night. That was 14 pages. 75 pages from the applicant were also delivered last night. 89 pages. I'm not sure how myself or anyone, and Casey did a good job just trying to find a few bits and pieces in there, but I'm not sure how anyone is supposed to actually absorb those documents from the public, including myself, as an appellant, and actually have a meaningful response to them in any way, given less than 24 hours notice. I believe that is a violation of our due process rights, and I am noting that for the record. I'm asking this committee to grant my appeal and the other appeals. Respectfully, I submit that it is the duty of this committee to send this project back to the Planning Department to start at square one with a full environmental impact report for all of these hotel projects. The inadequacy of the M&D is manyfold. Written comments submitted by multiple appellants, including myself, and with expert studies conducted by Smith Engineering and SWAPE, show that the M&D fails to adequately evaluate the project's air quality and greenhouse gas emissions, as well as mobile source emissions, vendor emissions from these, and the impact of ride sharing. The city staff says that this is simply unstudied, to which CEQA's response is you must study it. If there is no evidence based around it, but we know something is happening, CEQA demands that we actually investigate and study this thing. So where is the city's evidence that ride sharing is not having an impact on this project when it's already underparked? To move on to the subject of piecemealing, because this is the most important topic of this project, bar none. Again, it is a massive urban resort mega project, over 700 hotel rooms, The collective impact of this piecemeal mega project has not been studied. Just because the M&D mentions that there is a hotel next door, it is hiding the ball from the public, from this committee, from everyone, in that these projects are part of one large enterprise owned and controlled by the applicant, by the same developer. They are building 724 hotel rooms on the same block, or the same block and a half, in Hollywood, a formerly very residential area of Hollywood. Again, that's the Tommy Hotel, the Thompson Hotel, the Dream 1 Hotel, the Dream 2 Hotel, the Tao Restaurant and Nightclub, all of these nightclubs and bars and hotels all on top of each other. Despite this 350,000 square foot mega project, in any other context, there's no conceivable way that this project would be done under an M&D standard. It is just unthinkable. But because the applicant has parted it out 1 year at a time, from 2014 to now, 2013 to now, on their website, in their marketing materials, they have promoted this as a single project for investors to invest in. They have promoted it to the public as a single project. There is an interview with one of the owners of the company in the LA Times where they talk about their dream for this being an urban resort mega project. They want to turn it into their own version of the meatpacking district in Hollywood. And there are a lot of developers who say that about Hollywood, but they clearly are going along this path and have had now several projects approved right in a row by this, by the planning department that all speak to this one large enterprise, this continuous business across this block of Selma and Wilcox and, in Hollywood that is over 700 hotel rooms, 8 bars, 2 nightclubs, multiple restaurants, 350,000 square feet. And we're supposed to believe, the public is supposed to believe this is a single project. It is a farce. Please grant my appeal, deny any entitlements to this applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. We have representing Sunset Landmarks, Mr. Daniel Wright, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Daniel Wright is of my office, but my name is Robert Silverstein, and I'm appearing on behalf of Appellant Sunset Landmark. Let the record reflect, first of all, that we turned in additional objections today, and I've given an original and copies to your clerk, and I'm holding up a copy of what we turned in. This is, in part, an attempt to respond to some of the issues that were raised by your staff in a very late submission of comments to the appeals. L. Farmer just mentioned that the applicant's 75-page letter and the responses from staff came last night. Actually, we did not see them. My office did not see them, and they were not posted until today. So literally, it's only been a couple of hours that the city's responses and another 75 pages of attempted rebuttal were made public. And I would also note that the city's responses are dated November 21, yet they were only provided today. In an era of email, how is it that the November 21 dated city responses are only released grudgingly today? Obviously, to ask the question is to answer it. It's because there is an effort by this body and by staff to limit and impair the public's ability to meaningfully respond and to support our appeals. I have sued you, the City Council, for due process violations. I have won trials against you, the City Council, for due process violations. What we are seeing is a continuation of that today. It's not acceptable, and you have a responsibility to say, wait a minute, we want this to not only be a fair process, but to appear to be a fair process. Neither of those things has happened. Let me just quickly also mention to you that among other things, in the letter that was provided today at Exhibit 1, we have submitted a noise study which demonstrates that the noise analysis in the MND is fatally flawed, that it is deficient, and that a fair argument exists that the project may have significant unmitigable impacts, both in terms of construction, in terms of operational noise, and in terms of cumulative impacts. And I would ask that you review that additional information. In turning to the question of piecemealing, which has been a focus of many of the appellants and the objections that are before you, I echo what Al Farmer said. Your own planning commissioner, Ms. Dake Wilson, said that she did not, quote, did not trust anything the developer said. The developer has done a shell game of submitting one application and then another in a serial manner in an effort to chop a larger project into small pieces to mask the cumulative environmental impacts. And the language that I just used is from a Supreme Court case called Bozung from 1975. And the Supreme Court there said that when a project, a larger project, is chopped into smaller pieces, it is a violation of CEQA, and it can have devastating impacts on the environment. And that is what is happening here. I was able only briefly to look at some of the attempted rebuttal by the developer, and the contrived and stilted and just lack of credible argument by them about how each one of these projects is just somehow an independent of the whole. It doesn't pass the smell test. And Mr. Englander said something interesting in connection with the LA Times item. He said, that was before you a few minutes ago, he said, quote, you look at the totality of each one of these situations. And what you are not looking at is the totality of the situation, that there are multiple projects that have been brought forward by this developer. The after-the-fact attempt to try to salvage your position through an MND and through a very cursory look at some of those projects together is inappropriate under CEQA. There is another Supreme Court case, Laurel Heights, that says you cannot engage in a post hoc rationalization for a decision already made. That is what you are engaging in. There is clear piecemealing here. You need to stop and have this the entirety of the project analyzed in an EIR. I also want to mention that there is a lot of discussion of a case called Citizens Coalition Los Angeles in the applicant's rebuttal. The skeleton that goes throughout their rebuttal packs a lot of meat onto that case. Well, last week, the California Supreme Court ordered that decision depublished. They were not allowed to cite it. It has no precedential effect for you, and all of the arguments in it are of no value. Thank you. We ask that you grant our appeal.
Thank you so much. We have a...
if I could just ask Mr. Silverstein for one. Sure. No, because we are in the receipt of your voluminous arguments that you just submitted. Just a thought for future, because I know you've been before this body many times and have submitted very similar stacks of paper. Just in the interest of the environment, if you could double-side these next time, that would be great.
I'll do that if you promise to actually read
Not asking
things.
that, just asking.
All right,
that.
so we got somebody from Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters.
Good afternoon, Chairman, honorable council members. My name is Dan McDonald. I'm representing the 50,000 members of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. We stand in opposition of the approval of this project on several grounds, many of which have been already stated. However, it's important that for our case and future litigation, we get our comments on the record. Fair agreement standard applies to the MNDs. The Planning Commission should require the appellant to prepare a full environmental impact report, since a fair argument exists that the proposed project may have a significant environmental impact, and because the cumulative impacts of this project require preparation of the EIR. The city impermissibly advances two distinct baselines in violation of CEQA. The use of two baselines in the mitigated negative declaration is misleading, confusing, and thwarts the information goals of CEQA. The environmental review document should not contain both an original baseline and a current baseline. In Communities for Better Environment versus South Coast Air Quality Management District, the Supreme Court of California emphasizes that the baseline should be the physical conditions actually existing at the time of analysis. The MND fails to adequately analyze the cumulative impacts. CEQA requires preparation of an EIR where a project has possible environmental effects and individually limited but cumulatively considerable. The city fails to adequately discuss the cumulative traffic, greenhouse gas emissions, and noise impacts. The city unreasonably discounts and defers evaluation of cumulative impacts from most of the 136 past, present, and reasonably foreseeable nearby projects identified in the MNDs and conclusory fashion, and in a manner unsupported by the substantial evidence. Failure to adequately evaluate cumulative impacts is an abuse of the discretion and violates CEQA. MNDs improperly defer mitigation for traffic impacts and mitigation insufficient to address significant impacts. The MND improperly defers mitigation for the significant impacts to traffic. The MNDs conclude that the project will result in significant impacts to traffic at two intersections, Hollywood Boulevard and Wilcox Avenue, and Selma Avenue and Wilcox Avenue. The mitigation measure proposed to address this significant impact is illusory and non-existent. The MND states that the transportation demand that a transportation demand management and monitoring program will be prepared and submitted to the Department of Transportation prior to the issuance of a first certificate of occupancy for the project. GHG analysis is indefensible because the city has not adopted significant thresholds. In the MND, the city admits currently that there are no applicable California Air Resource Board, South Coast Air Quality Management District, or city significant thresholds or specific reduction targets, and no approved policy for guidance to assist in demanding the significance at the project or cumulative levels. I'm out of breath and I'm getting hungry. It's close to my dinner time. Folks, let's get out of here. We oppose the project and we're asking you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to provide 10 minutes for the applicant. Mr. Frejo, I believe, is representing.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you very much for your attention, for the opportunity to be able to present this project. I will not take the totality of my time as a courtesy to this body, and primarily as a result of the extraordinary effort that planning staff has made to thoroughly address the comments that have been raised by the appellants. As we all know, there is no requirement that there be written responses to the appellants' arguments. Notwithstanding that, I believe that the planning department, in addition to my office, have presented adequate information and thorough information to properly rebut and address the concerns that were raised. And let me be clear, this project has been the subject of over 2 years of review by the planning department, by the planning commission, and notwithstanding the comments that were raised by the appellants relative to Commissioner Renee Dake Wilson, the record reflects that Commissioner Dake Wilson supported the project and recognized the applicant for the work that they were doing relative to design and addressing some of the concerns that were raised by stakeholder groups. We have a number of organizations in Hollywood that support the project, including the Neighborhood Council. The Hollywood Network Coalition, the Neighborhood Council, Plum Committee, and Board voted to support the project. The Chamber of Commerce, Hollywood Heritage, we've been working with LAPD, and we've also been working with the Council Office, who is here to make remarks with regards to the project. I would respectfully request...
Pardon me, folks in the audience who are standing up, we need you to sit down and put your signs down. You can put the signs up, but you have to sit down. You're disrupting the meeting. We're going to ask folks to sit down, and if you can't sit down, please leave. You can resume, Mr. Frejo, and you cannot have banners up.
I would add just in my final remarks is that we respectfully request that the appeals be denied and the project approved and elevated to the full council for final action forthwith. We're available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frejel. We've got a list of public comment speakers. We'll ask folks to sit down now for the third time. We'd appreciate your courtesy in that regard. Jacob Jarugi, Dave Carter, Jordan Greenslade, Hugo Soto. Yeah, sir, you're blocking people that are sitting behind you. If you want to stand up, stand in the back of the room. I'm not sure what you accomplished by being so rude. Thank you,
Hi,
sir.
my name is Jacob Howdige.
I'm sorry, can you hold your time until he sits down? Because it's just disrupting the meeting because there's other people that are trying to participate in this meeting from the public as well. And I know the chair has already asked him on several occasions. And I will ask the chair that if he doesn't remove to the back where he can stand, that he be removed from the meeting, whoever's standing.
Go ahead.
On behalf of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, I am here to express the Chamber's support of the proposed Selma Wilcox Hotel project. The Chamber believes this project will help to revitalize the area of Wilcox and bring much-needed hotel rooms to one of the most visited parts of Los Angeles. We're particularly pleased with the project's pedestrian-friendly design elements and outdoor dining options. We believe this project will go a long way towards contributing to the walkability of the neighborhood. The project is well served by transit, increasing its accessibility for residents and tourists alike. As you know, Hollywood is undergoing an amazing renaissance. As Hollywood continues to grow at an unprecedented rate, the need for hotel rooms will also increase. For the past several years, the Chamber has been working to attract new hotels to Hollywood. With multiple nearby hotel projects also in the works, this neighborhood is emerging as a hospitality center providing much-needed services for the thousands of visitors that travel to Hollywood, as well as our local residents who live, work, and play in the entertainment capital of the world. The Hollywood Chamber is proud to support the Selma Wilcox project.
Thank
and
you
we
so
ask
much.
that you move this project forward. Thank you.
Council Members Committee. My name is Dave Carter, and I work just down the street from the actual proposed project. I'm happy to support the hotel project itself and the applicants in my working neighborhood. The people involved have worked hard to give us a strong economic future and possibilities by developing this exciting project and create a sense of worthiness for Hollywood. The project will draw new visitors as well as people that live and work in the area, which will activate the streets throughout the day and give the local businesses a chance to thrive. I respect the request from this committee to support this project just as I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the Plum Committee. My name is Jordan Greenslade. I'm with Unite Here Local 11. I'm speaking to express our opposition to the project known as Dream 2 Hotel Project. Before granting the entitlements sought for this project by the applicant relevant group, the City Council, through the Planning Commission, must make findings the requested action is consistent with public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice. We contend that this new luxury development, a part of a large urban resort series of connected projects put forth by relevant group, is in no way a public necessity. As a former hotel worker in Hollywood who had to live on a couch my first half year of working there because of high rents, I contend that what we don't need in this area is more luxury development of hotels, clubs, bars that don't guarantee good jobs. I respectfully ask that the Plum Committee grant the appeal and reject all requested approvals until an EIR is prepared to fully study the environmental impacts caused by turning this project and relevant groups' other projects into one urban resort hotel project.
Thank you. There's a malfunction with our system for a second. Hugo Soto, Craig Bullock, Dan McDonnell, Sandra Rodriguez, Fatima Murrieta, Susan Hunter,
Once again, Dan McDonald, Carpenter Union, one-man show. I'm going to speak about an issue regarding Relevant Group that I do know about as an organizer in LA City for the last 15 years. I can speak about their contracting construction practices. They've employed subcontractors that are engaged in cash pay, workman's fraud, insurance fraud, tax fraud. That's the type of business, that's the type of folks that they do business with on their projects, and that's why the Southwest Regional Council is in strong opposition of this project. In addition to the CEQA issues, their labor practices are deplorable, and I want that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members.
Thank you.
Council member, just as a note, that individual was an appellant who spoke again. If any further appellants choose to speak again, they have already had their time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Rodriguez, and I live in LA. From what I've read about this project, it is just a piece of a larger development, and the project seems to be just a part of a larger urban resort envisioned by the owners and the corporate officers of the Relevant Group. The site next door has already been redeveloped with the Dream Hotel, the Dream One, and the Tower Restaurant on top of it, and several businesses adjacent to the Dream Hotel. However, the project, the Dream One, and the Tower have gotten an environmental review that is in isolation of one another and not within the context of this larger urban mega resort project. After learning more about the plans and the marketing of the project, a piecemeal environmental review seems inadequate and improper given the final goal of the project and of the applicants. I respectfully ask the Plum Committee to grant the appeal and reject all requested approvals until an environmental impact report can be produced to study the environmental impacts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Fatima Murrieta. I'm a proud member of Unite Here Local 11 and a proud immigrant from Colombia. I've lived in the U.S. for 19 years. I have many concerns of this project, but one of my main concerns is that the developer, Relevant Group, has received hundreds of millions of dollars in investment from rich foreign nationals on hotel projects worth hundreds of millions of dollars. These investors have invested in exchange for green cards. The federal visa program through which they invested is called EB-5 and allows wealthy immigrants to buy their legal status as for little as $100,000. This program is unjust, giving preference to only wealthy immigrants while millions of immigrants are in fear of deportation at this moment. I oppose development projects that exploit the broken immigration system to profit at the expense of our community. This massive influx of money comes from no benefit to our community. Please grant the appeals. Thank you.
Susan Hunter, I live in this neighborhood, and I would like to say firstly, I don't know how you can analyze the emissions from cars that are being parked on the site when they are sharing parking with 1545 Wilcox up the street. So we don't have a clear decision on where the cars are being parked for this site. I'm also concerned about the rooftop usage because I am being impacted by the noise that are coming from all these rooftops that are being approved. So I'm asking that as a mitigation, the hotel rooftop only be used for hotel guests that are permanently staying there. And to answer your question, Mr. Cedillo, about consistency, I would like to point out that the consistency that we are seeing approved projects coming from this committee are all luxury. It's luxury hotels, luxury housing, and that's not being done for the people that live in this community. This hotel isn't being built for me to be able to access it or go to it because I can't afford $18 drinks. So if you want to talk about consistency, I would like to point out that we would like to see consistency in putting in projects that actually benefit our immediate community and not just overseas investors. Thank you.
Alfredo Hernandez. Craig Bullock. And that exhausts our public comment speakers. One more time, what's your name? What's your name? Yeah, your name's not here, so we have to figure that out.
Good afternoon, honorable council members. My name is Alfredo Hernandez. I'm chair of the Urban Policy Committee of the Hollywood Network Coalition, a broad-based coalition of businesses, residents, nonprofits, and educational institutions. Our committee and board voted unanimously to support this project. The proposed project provides a high-quality hotel with a design that showcases all that is special about Hollywood: the life, the city, and the views. The applicants have created a hospitality corridor in and around Selma Avenue that has boosted the local economy while providing hundreds of local jobs. People love coming to and staying in Hollywood again. The success of their dream hotel, the Tao Group's restaurants, is a testament to their knowledge of what is needed and how to make it work. I respectfully request that you support this project. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bullock, and I'm with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. We are here today to support the project. We urge approval of the entitlements, the inclusion of the LAPD modified conditions, and denials of the appeal. We believe the project will be beneficial to Hollywood and to the city at large with its economic and tourist activity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Tony, come on up. I think we had you down for general public comment instead of this item, but get 1 minute to speak.
Thank you. My name is Tony Pagliaro. I've lived in and worked in the neighborhood for almost 9 years. I moved there in January 2010. My current office is on Sunset and Wilcox, and that's less than a block away from the project. I'm here to support this project, and I strongly believe that it's in the right kind of project for this growing area of Hollywood. And also, I applaud the applicants for their commitment to hiring locally. More than 60% of the 150 employees at the Dream Hotel and Tao Group live in the 90028 and 90038 zip codes, including some of my friends. I look forward to bringing my friends and family to this, visiting this project when it's completed. I encourage you to please support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments on this item. I will ask members, Mr. Price, Mr. Cedillo, Mr. Blumenfeld, if there are questions or comments on this item. I see Mr. Cedillo approaching the microphone.
Mr. Chair, my only concerns with the project are the fact that we don't have a project labor agreement. I don't know what the challenges are, why we can't get there. It seems that in this city that as we build, that we should be building. I know all of us are committed to raising wages from the bottom up, and the best strategy that we know of that is a strong labor movement. So I'm perplexed. Obviously, I support the development, but I'm challenged by the fact that unions and coherence have spoken up against this project. And so I may be compelled to stay off. We don't have a process to stay off. We may be compelled to vote no against the project.
Now, thank you so much, Mr. Cedillo. Your comments are noted and I think deeply and widely felt. Although that's not that question is not necessarily before us at this moment, but we appreciate you registering that concern onto the record. Mr. Price, Mr. Blumenfeld, no questions or comments? All right. So I'll move that we deny the appeals and sustain the Planning Commission's determination in approving the CUB, the site plan review and zoning administrator's adjustment for the project located at 1600 North Wilcox Avenue. Yes, questions, comments, Mr. Cedillo. Yes. That's my understanding of the matter. Thank you so much.
Councilman, in addition to the vesting zone change, the high district change, the modified condition that planning suggested, submitted by LAPD, condition 21B, and the environmental findings.
Yes. Excellent. So without objection, that'll be the order. Where does that leave us?
General public comment, Councilman, I believe, I'm not sure if you closed it or not earlier.
Closed. I did not close general public comment, and we have a number of individuals.
Chair, if I can just add before that, I just have a quick.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry.
Apologize for that, for being out of the room when you called me earlier. So, thank you, Chair Harris Dawson and members of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning. I just have a brief director's report, which is I passed out to everyone our housing progress report, and this is our second will be a quarterly, thank you very much, report on terms of our progress to building more housing in the city of Los Angeles. As has been noted here earlier, we're in a crisis of not having enough housing and enough housing of all different types in the city of LA. So this is just monitoring our progress through the planning entitlement process. And we're looking at four main areas in this: accessory dwelling unit production, how we're dealing with the unpermitted dwelling unit ordinance. This allows for certain multifamily units that were previously built without permits to get legally converted, provided they meet certain health and safety standards. How we're doing in terms of our transit-oriented communities incentives, as well as our density bonus program. We have refined it since we brought it to you last time, and we'll probably continue to do one more refinement. In fact, you may see comments that were raised last time. For example, we have a snapshot of the big picture in the last couple of pages, and I think we had a comment from Councilmember Blumenfield where we have some peaks and valleys that were because of a specific reason that we noted. We put that in there, Councilmember, when we mentioned that there's a spike overall in production with in anticipation of measures JJJ and S, as well as when the leakage fee came about. So we're continuing to refine this, so we're happy to get any input from you. Also have Ashley Atkinson from our performance management unit who prepared this. A few highlights is that if you look at all of our housing units entitlement, if you look at the last 3 months of this report, July through September, 65% of the overall units proposed were actually through our transit-oriented communities, or TOC program. So this is a program that was a result of Measure JJJ and has been in effect for just a little over a year, and you can see it's really been taking off. We also, in this program, really highlighted kind of where the units are getting produced. For example, we have maps of where accessory dwelling units are getting produced, as well as the unapproved dwelling unit ordinance. And also we did a map just kind of showing, and this came up last time, kind of where the TOC or transit-oriented community projects are in relationship to density bonus, to kind of give you a better idea. This is online on our website, and so we'll be producing a new one probably in January, which will be updated. So feel free. We're happy to answer any questions today, or if you have any other comments, we're happy to take them and see if we should we refine this further.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
And just to
Mr. Director.
Sorry, Councilman, just to be clear, Mr. Bertoni was speaking to item 1.
Right, which do we need to reconsider?
Yes, because I think you had received and filed.
Okay, so we move to reconsider. Hear no objection. The item is reconsidered. We'll accept Mr. Bertoni's report unless there are questions or comments from members. Hearing none, we will adopt the report. Thank you so much, Mr. Director. All right, now we have general public comment. I've got a lot of names here, 41 in total. I think some of these people are gone, so I will read them off quickly. Carlos Cerdan, Stephanie Aispuro, Emma Cerdan, Carlos Montes, Sol, Rosario Bonilla, Eloisa Martinez, Yasmin Garcia, Julie Regalado, Luz Montoya, Noemi Galindo, Lucia Castellon, Lucia Hernandez, Mimi Duncanson, Gloria Martinez, Adrian Tamayo, Meredith Flores, Nelly Solis, Maria Limon, Benny Madero. Now, you guys can't move it like that on me. Alan Harris, Natalie De La Cruz, Doug Haynes, Juliana Amaro, Vivian Escalante, Whitman Lam. Come on up if your name has been called. Raul Verdugo, Jay Chang, Sean Braun, Yael Lipschitz. You got 1 minute. Please begin with your name.
Good evening. My name is Juliana Amaro.
You should pull the mic down a little bit. There you go.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, good evening. My name is Juliana Amaro. I oppose the construction of the charter school on 4th and Soto. The reason being is because I'm a resident of the area.
So let me stop you all and everybody that's with you. So the item of the charter school has come up It's been heard and it's been voted on. So we can't speak directly on that item. If you want to talk about new buildings in general or traffic in general, you can, but we can't comment on that specific item. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a resident of the area who suffers from really severe asthma. As it is, there's a lot of traffic and that causes a lot of pollution, and just walking sometimes is a struggle for me with getting my asthma attacks. So building another building and having more cars come through will just make traffic more congested and will cause more pollution to the area I live in.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Natalie De La Cruz. If this KIPP charter school is made, it will cause more pollution and traffic. I believe that the building could instead be made into apartments for people that need it. There are many cars cramped up in the parking lots. I recently passed there just today, and I saw that there was a lot of traffic, and I saw where the mega KIPP would be built, and I thought, wow, this place could really be made for an apartment for people who need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more time, we cannot comment specifically on this item. You're good. Go on. I'm just reminding folks that the charter school has been heard and voted on and is out of this committee, and we're not allowed to take public comment on it. But go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vivian Escalante. I am the president of the Committee to Defend Roosevelt. I was here actually to speak on item 12, and I'm actually now going to be speaking on behalf of historical demolition and housing, where it has been consistent that we can see these amazing hotels being built, but at the same time, when we talk about historical preservation and housing on the east side of downtown or in downtown, it is being dismissed. So I would highly recommend that when you have developers come in, that you seriously also consider that we need to start repurposing what we already have now, and there's absolutely no reason to go into a demolition when we can repurpose for seniors, for people with disabilities, and as well as homelessness, which also is a part of the demolition that's going on now with the historical building on 443 Soto Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Meredith, and I am a student who is worried about the school being built because it will bring more traffic and that will prevent me from coming to school on time. Today I got to school late, and the bus driver told us that it was because of the traffic. I am afraid that this school being built will not let me go to school on time because it would cause traffic by the people who want to get to that school and to others that were already built. That is why I oppose this school being built. Thank you for your time, and please consider my opinion.
Hello, my name's Lupe Torres. I live in the East area, and any new construction in that area will be disastrous. It takes me to travel a quarter mile from Soto. Takes me in the morning about 20 minutes minimum on a Monday and a Tuesday. Any new construction bringing over 100 cars would be disastrous. We already have cars going in and out to the expanding USC Medical Center, White Memorial, and then all of us were avoiding the freeway. Also, it will add more pollution. We already have many cancer cases possibly caused by the Exide battery plant disaster, and we are surrounded. We're boxed in by freeway, so any kind of construction is a very irresponsible move by the council. Also, I'd like to just finish as a teacher. The NAACP and Congresswoman Maxine Waters opposes any KIPP charter because they are against the rights of Black and brown students. Their rights are being violated because they're being expelled.
Can you tell me your name?
Torres. That's how I started. Lupe Torres.
Okay. So if I didn't call your name, you shouldn't come up to speak. So next speaker. Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She needs a translator.
Do we have translation? No. The city has a translator. Thank you. Can you start the time, please, so we can go? Thank you.
Okay, okay. A mí se me hace algo irónico
I believe there's something ironic.
que en Boyo Heights tenemos hay mucho tráfico, hay una quita en la Whittier,
That we have there's a lot of traffic
en,
in Boyle Heights,
en Plaza del Sol,
in Plaza del Sol.
otra charter,
We have another charter,
y la charter que se va a hacer.
and the charter that's going to be done.
¿Qué es lo que está pasando? ¿Hay demasiado tráfico?
What's happened? There's a lot of traffic,
Y se me hace algo irónico que nosotros como comunidad
and I believe there's ironic that us as a community
de bajos recursos nos estén imponiendo
of low income are imposing
escuelas charters que hay tanto
charter
tráfico en la
schools.
Soto y la
There's a
4.
lot of traffic on the Soto and 4th.
Y es una tristeza lo que están haciendo con nosotros.
It's sad what they're doing with us.
Y yo lo único que les pido es que respeten, ya no que ¿por qué no lo hacen en otra parte retirado, no necesariamente en Soto y 4?
And the only thing that I ask you to respect is why don't you do it somewhere else and not on, and Soto,
en Soto.
somewhere else.
Está Roosevelt, Breed, está alrededor todas esas
There's
escuelas y hace un
Roosevelt,
congestionamiento.
Roosevelt, Breed, all those schools, there's a congested.
Lo único que les puedo decir
The only thing that I can tell
que
you
no queremos esa escuela allí
that we don't want that school there.
y vamos a hacer lo más posible de hacer protestas.
That
Ya
we're
basta
gonna
de que
do the
nos estén viendo la
possible.
cara de bajos recursos,
We're
de
gonna
hacer
do
lo
a
que quieran,
protest.
de ponernos
It's
tantas
enough
escuelas.
That you see us because we're low resources.
Yo sé que se les hace algo chistoso
I know that it looks something funny
y
for
ustedes
you,
van a probar eso.
and you're going to have a taste of that.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Qué ironía con ustedes, burlarse de nosotros.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Last time, no comments on the KIP project on the east side. You can make direct comments about traffic and development and community development. We've kind of let it go, so we would respectfully ask you to abide by the body's rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Raul Verdugo. I'm from Alcohol Justice, and I'm speaking here as a member of the Los Angeles Drug and Alcohol Policy Alliance. I'm here to ask for the committee to agendize the RS motion, file number 170117. As many of you know, LA has trouble with the overconcentration of alcohol retail establishments. RS can serve as an additional tool to help protect the public health, safety, and welfare of its residents. It will reduce negative impacts of alcohol for neighborhood residents as well, and I'm here to ask for the committee to agendize a motion 170117.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucia, and
What's your last name, Lucia?
Amaro.
Thank you.
The destroying of old buildings that will increase. Sorry. The destroying of old buildings will increase the toxins that will harm me and my lower quality of life. In addition, getting to school is already a struggle with all the traffic, and having more cars to commit through 4th Street and Soto will increase my chances of being late to school no matter how early I get up.
Thank you.
¿Me puede traducir, por favor? Antes de que llegue a traducirme, le doy un saludo al señor Gil Cedillo.
Before I came to translate, I say hi to Mr. Gil Cedillo.
Hola, soy una madre de escuelas públicas.
Hello, I'm a mother of public schools.
Can you tell us your name, su nombre?
Eloísa Martínez.
Eloísa Martínez.
Ustedes no quieren escuchar sobre charter, ¿ok?
You don't want to listen about charter, so okay.
Ahora yo quiero preguntarles cuándo van a escuchar a los padres
Now I want to ask you, when are you going to listen to the parents
para salvar nuestras escuelas.
to save our schools?
Me quedé sorprendida por qué los padres no podemos hablarles a ustedes como políticos.
I was surprised why us as parents we can't talk to you
¿Y por qué sí los millonarios pueden venir a poner proyectos multimillonarios?
And why, yes, the millionaires can come and put millionaire projects.
Como políticos me quedé sorprendida de cómo el abogado está ganando dinero a base de su trabajo como abogado, pero está luchando
I was
por
surprised that
no
how
saben
the-
qué es lo que estamos pasando la comunidad.
But I was surprised at how the attorney was earning a lot of money for the projects.
Estoy hablando de la calidad de vida
I'm talking about the quality of life,
de los residentes. Perderán casas.
about the residents. You're going to lose houses.
Pasan 6 rutas de autobús, señor Gil Cedillo.
There's about 6 bus routes. that
Mucha
go by
gente llega tarde a los
Cedillo.
trabajos por eso.
A lot of people get late to work because of that.
Quiero que piensen todos esta noche, ¿cuándo van a escuchar a los padres?
I want you to think this night.
¿Cuándo?
When are you going to listen to the parents?
Mónica
When?
García no, Austin Buter no, ¿quién?
Monica Garcia, no. Austin Buren, no. Who?
¿Quién?
Who?
Somos padres, estamos perdiendo tiempo y exigimos respeto.
Your time is
Exigimos
up.
que nos
Your time
escuchen,
is
por
up.
favor.
Your time is up. Thank you.
No soy abogada, pero soy una madre y vivo en la
Time.
comunidad. El abogado no vive en mi comunidad.
Hi, good evening. At this point, my name is Sol Marquez, and I believe my name was also called previously. Yes. Okay, thank you. So I'm here just wanting to speak in kind of a disbelieving manner that, you know, the Plum would actually vote to support this project when, as a member of the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council, we overwhelmingly denied their request to rezone in Boyle Heights. We also had 300 people who came out in front of Wisar's office right before he actually got raided by the FBI and is no longer sitting in front of us. And so there is a huge support. There's still people who are here who live in Boyle Heights and who have expressed time and time again that our concern is for what Exide did to us. Exide threw a bunch of lead all over our grass and over our soil. So with KIPP coming in and building up this new school that's going to take a bunch of kids away from the other public schools, it is going to disturb the grass. There is no current plan that KIPP has even mentioned on what they're going to do in regards to that.
Thank you. That's your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Plum members, committee members. My name is Benny Madera. I am a stakeholder in Boyle Heights. I'm also a member of the Lincoln Heights Planning and Land Use Committee. There's a fundamental problem that we're not looking at here in Plum. Mr. Price, I'm speaking to yourself. I'm so sorry Mr. Englander left, but the fundamental, Mr. Bloomfield, I recognize you, Mr. Cedillo, of course, Mr. Harris Dawson. The fundamental problem that's going on is that these independent corporate charter schools are unaccountable. They're unaccountable, they're unregulated. If you're going to take the people's money, you should be accountable to the people. What do I mean by that? Their boards are appointed. They are not elected like you all.
Sir, a couple things. One, your time's almost up. Two,
Well, I have 6 seconds
hold on.
left, Mr.
Two,
Dawson.
charter schools are not in the purview of this committee or the Los Angeles City Council. That is an issue between the school board and the State Department of Education. And so, and we don't have your name on the speaker list. So we'll thank you for coming.
Yeah, well, I did sign
And-
up last time, and I signed up this time.
And we had over an hour of public comment on this matter when it was actually heard. So we thank
Okay.
all of you for being
I'm
here.
s-
That concludes our general
you, Mr.
public
Chair.
comment.
Appreciate it.
And we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks so much.